In addition to the first part of the presentation, I wanted to finish off this presentation with talking about the science behind the formation of carbon-14 and also present the project portion, the creative project portion. So the formation of carbon-14 begins when cosmic radiation enters the Earth's atmosphere. And when it enters the atmosphere, it collides with an atom in the atmosphere and it creates a second wave of energy in the form of a energetic neutron, which is this. Then the neutron goes on to collide with nitrogen atoms already present in the atmosphere. And this nitrogen atom is called nitrogen-14, which has 7 protons and 7 neutrons, thus making it a very stable atom. During the collision, the atom loses a proton, but while it loses a proton, it also receives a neutron, making it carbon-14, which has 6 protons and 8 it has 6 protons and 8 neutrons. Since the number of protons and neutrons within the atom is very unbalanced, this causes carbon-14 to be very unstable. Therefore, it is very radioactive. Then plants and trees, such as this tree, they would absorb the carbon dioxide and it would use the carbon-14 for food through photosynthesis. Then when animals and people eat the plants, then we also take in the carbon-14. But when the tree dies or when the animal dies, it releases the carbon-14 back into the atmosphere. So while we see this, this picture inspired me to make my creative project. This is my creative project where I give a picture of what the process, the cycle of carbon-14 within our environment, from how it comes from how it enters our Earth's atmosphere, and how the collision of the neutron with nitrogen-14 creates carbon-14, and how while carbon-14 is in our atmosphere, carbon-12 and 13 is also in our atmosphere. The carbon-14 gets absorbed by the trees and plants, the animals and humans. We eat the plants, and we also absorb the carbon-14. And eventually, the plants and animals will die, and the carbon-14 will go through beta decay and turn back into nitrogen-14. But this carbon-14 is also released into our atmosphere. And I drew a decaying vegetation versus fossil fuels to show that the carbon release from dead vegetation is different from the carbon release from fossil fuels. So now that we know the difference, we can determine exactly how much carbon is released from plants versus exactly how much is released from fossil fuels. This process of carbon coming into our atmosphere is a normal cycle, but the problem is that if there is an excess of carbon, and we can solve this excess of carbon in our atmosphere by just cleaning up the decay. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.